Hello, everybody. I'm Todd,
I'm Owen.
and on today's episode of Movie LaBuffs, we will be reviewing the new film The Kid Detective, starring Adam Brody. So let's fire this up and get to the bottom of this movie mystery. All right, on today's episode of The Kid Detective.
That was good. That was a good walk-in.
It's all right. It's Adam Brody, he's a detective of sorts. I don't know. I sound like Woody Allen. Like, Jesus.
Kid Detective was written and directed by Evan Morgan, and it stars Adam Brody and Sophie Nelisse. So Evan Morgan is a Canadian, and
Good for him.
good for him. He's written the movie The Dirties, who is directed by Matt Johnson.
Not to be
That's
confused with the
wrong.
Motley Crue movie, The Dirt.
Who Matt Johnson is the guy from Nirvana the band The Show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, that kind of explains the Canadiana aspect of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're two Toronto guys, so that's kind of interesting. I wonder how they know each other, if they're friends and stuff like that. Nirvana the band, the show, of course, is
Pretty legit.
great comedy that we both love, which is kind of like
Shout out to that show, by the way.
it's kind of like it's half written and half improv.
Yeah, and if you haven't checked it out, check out a couple clips on YouTube if you want. Great show. I
They
highly
did.
recommend it. Highly recommend it.
It did actually start as a YouTube.
It was a YouTube
Show.
story.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, right?
And then they made 2 seasons CBC.
CBC,
made
I
it,
believe.
think. So it's
CBC
on,
affiliated.
It's on there's a CBC
On the Jam app?
streaming. Yeah, is it called Gem?
Yeah, I think it's called Jam.
So yeah, it's on there, and I've watched it on there.
Oh,
So
okay,
it's
cool.
all on there, and that's actually free. So
Yeah,
any Canadian listeners.
Also, the
it's
Kenny
free.
versus Penny
Oh,
pandemic
is-
specials on there as
is
well.
that any good? I never.
I haven't checked it out yet, but
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I don't know, like, could be.
Something to talk about in the future.
In the
yeah.
future.
So yeah, Evan Morgan actually. So I saw he's from Toronto, and I looked him up on Facebook because we're both in Toronto, and we have a mutual friend. Which
Okay.
is Scotty.
Oh, really? Scotty knows them. Okay, cool.
Anyway, yeah, I'm not sure how. I might ask him. Our good buddy Scotty. I might ask him. But I sent him a friend request just for shits, and he accepted. So,
Oh, nice.
so I'm friends with Evan Morgan on Facebook now. So the Kid Detective premiered at TIFF, which is fitting, of course. 'cause,
Obviously.
this movie was shot in. I also heard it was hard to get made, and they couldn't find anyone to produce it. Finally, they got a bunch of money from. So it's produced by Sony Pictures, and they got a bunch of money from Telefilm Canada.
Oh, okay.
So here's the thing about Telefilm is they really like shell out the dough, and it's always surprising to American movie makers that they get so much
This
money.
phone
from.
company is going to shell us. I mean, gotta spend money to make money.
So it was released October 16th in select theaters, and then just available on Sony's video on demand platform, I believe.
Yep, and Apple Music.
And Apple, right. Okay.
Or Apple TV, whatever.
All right, cool. So, Todd, tell us what Kid Detective is about.
Oh, buddy. I just want to open up by saying that I didn't think I was going to like this as much as I did, and complete shocker at
Yeah.
how much I fucking enjoyed this movie. So basically, it starts out with Adam Brody, the kid detective in question, the kid detective. It starts out with him kind of like dwelling on the past of where he used to be a famous child detective, like kind of like one of those like Harriet the Spy kind of
Yeah,
like kiddish, like,
They're
very,
like the Hardy Boys.
yeah, kind of. But
Nancy
very,
Drew.
yeah, very like childish, like Disney looking kind of like scenario. And then it kind of shows him like 18 years later where he's just essentially become like a disgraced like PI. And he's just obsessing over this case that he could never solve as a kid, right? And like, he's solved
Yeah,
over 200
murder.
cases, right?
His case, 200 cases, but they're all like, who stole
the
the
cookie
ice cream?
jar, yeah.
Exactly. They're all like,
But
funny
there's a bit
little-
of like murder peppered in there somehow.
Yeah, so that's what happens is there's a murder. His like secretary. So he's how old is he?
I think he's in his 30s.
No, and when he's a kid.
Oh, he's 13.
Okay, so he's 13. So he has this secretary who's his friend, who he pays in pop.
It's like the girl from fucking Ghostbusters. It's the same like setup.
True. But anyway, so she gets murdered. So it's like the first like real deal, and because everyone in this small town, Willowbrook, knows the kid, knows him. Abe, that's the other thing. His name is Abe Applebaum, which is just hilarious.
Yeah.
Because it's like a Nancy Drew type name. But yeah, so they approach
Constance Justice.
So the cops can't like figure out who murdered this girl, and so they approach him, and it's this like way too big thing for a kid, and it sends him on a 20-year downward spiral essentially.
And yes, which brings him to just running this like rinky-dink kind of like detective like setup out of like this shitty office. Like fast forward 18 years later, lo and behold, this girl shows up and asks him to solve a murder. Her boyfriend was murdered. So he kind of dives into that, and like, you know, it's kind of just like the building of, you know, the case and everything. And he's just a disgraced detective who becomes an adult, but still really is a kid detective at heart, trying to solve that one case that got away. And he kind of has like this sort of know-it-all, like, you know, like higher art thou than complex.
So he thinks he's like, he even says like he used to, as a kid, lie awake thinking about how smart he was and if he was like the smartest person in the world.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because, and there's so much like kind of truth, even though this is like a funny premise, but there's so much truth in the fact that like where he's end up in like his like darkest hour or whatever is almost because of all the pressure that he had of being like, everyone went to him for everything.
Yeah.
And when you get older, obviously, like that can really mess with you.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just him trying to recapture that moment where he was like the biggest thing in this small backwater like hick town. Like he's like, no, I wouldn't say backwater hick. It seems like pretty normal. I'm pretty sure it's fucking filmed in Guelph for all I know.
It's North Bay.
North Bay. Okay, I reassessed backwater hick town. Sorry, North Bay, but yeah, like he kind of just wants to recapture that moment of glory where he was like, oh, I was the kid detective. And that's kind of where it picks up again as an adult. And he's kind of struggling to kind of try and find, you know, that next case, right? Or that big case that's going to bring him back, right?
Yeah, so when we meet him in his 30s, he's still kind of doing the thing. He's like solving the missing cat, like.
Yeah, he's doing the childish, like the
and
childish.
One of the funniest things, too, is when he goes to that, like, ice cream shop.
Oh yeah, he's got ice cream for
claim
life.
his free ice cream. He was given free ice cream for life as a kid, and he's still using it.
Yeah.
The ice cream guy's like, "Fuck this kid."
But anyway, without getting too much into spoilers or anything, he takes on the case of another murdered child in the town after not being able to solve the case of another missing girl who disappeared 20 years earlier, and kind of sees a way to like kind of prove to like everybody in the town and also his parents that he's not washed up. So he teams up with another young girl who hires him, trying to solve this other like murder of another teenager in their town. And yeah, they kind of go about like piecing it all together and going through the town, and yeah, and it kind of just all comes together from there. And without getting too much into it, because I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but
what did you think? Let's talk about the acting. Yeah, so a funny thing is when I looked up this movie on IMDb, the three credited actors in this order are Caitlin Chalmers, Adam Brody, and Caleb Horn. So Caitlin Chalmers was the girl that kidnapped in the beginning of the movie and has like one line in the movie.
Oh, really?
And has never been in a movie. And then Caleb Horn is his roommate that has like 3 lines in the movie. So it's very strange. I don't know.
But there's other actors that I've seen. There's people who are in there that I've seen in other stuff.
And like Sophie Nelisse isn't even credited in that 3. It's
really
very strange.
That's weird. Someone fucked up.
Someone that's involved in this movie should visit this IMDb page and fix it.
Yeah.
So what did you think of, first of all, Adam Brody, who plays the main role?
Once you kind of get past the point of looking at him as that character from the OC, which is kind of what I was fixated on a little bit at the beginning, because it kind of drags you in with that indie track music at the beginning. It kind of like has like that like you know, like old vibe from when we were teenagers and those shows were on like TV and stuff. It kind of has that at the beginning, and you kind of picture him as that character for a bit, and then as it goes on, as the movie progresses, you get to see a different side of him. I think honestly he did a great job in it.
Yeah, I really liked him, and I'm a fan of Adam Brody. He, you know, hasn't been in too many things that are...
I really liked him in Thank You for Smoking when he's like the assistant. Like, he's like the, like, he's dressed in like the geisha costume all the time.
And,
when I was Rob Lowe was always dressed. Rob Lowe is his boss, and thank you for smoking. He's Rob Lowe's assistant.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, he was on the ABC show Single Parents, which I think is still on. I've never seen it or even heard of it, but
I'm not a big fan.
So then we have Caroline, the girl that hires Adam Brody's character, played by Sophie Nelisse.
Sophie Nelisse, not someone I'm really familiar with.
Yeah, so I looked her up, and she's done... Actually, have you heard of the movie Monsieur Lazare?
Well, I could say no.
So yeah,
Monsieur Lizard or Monsieur Lazard?
Todd is French-Canadian, I think it's fair to say.
I am, yes.
And so that's what I found out. She's from Montreal, actually, and she did a lot of French-Canadian movies. That's one. That was like her big Quebecois movie, Monsieur Lazare.
Monsieur Lazare?
And she also did The Book Thief. So it was a pretty big UK movie in like 2013, I want to say,
Really?
ish. Maybe even earlier. But yeah, she played, I think, the lead role in The Book Thief. It's just about World War II when the Germans are burning some type of books.
Nazi stuff.
Yeah,
Nazi shit.
We're always talking about Nazi shit.
Why isn't a Nazi shit always coming up?
But yeah, I thought the script was really good. What about you? Like it was hilarious.
That was great. That was great.
Yeah,
it captivated everything that I wanted. It was murder mystery mixed with a little bit of light comedy with some good acting and a well-written story. And it kind of just brought it all together. And I was like, this is fucking fantastic. This is a great movie.
Yeah, so I love this idea of this degenerate...
Yeah, kind of like a midlife crisis, kind of like reawake. Or like, I kind of saw it more as him just living too much in the past. You know? Like... And
yeah, he should really have
move
a long time ago.
Yeah, he should have moved on.
A real job.
Right. Yeah, he should have moved on from his profession. But
like even when he was 13, it's still kind of like
And that keeps coming up in the movie. It was like I solved 200 cases when I was 13. and you're just like, okay, like all right.
And it's also a really clever way to do this kind of like cop who plays by his own rules thing.
It's very like
believable.
It's kind of like LA. It has like a feel like LA noir kind of like scenes where they're driving around in the convertible, and it's kind of dark. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, okay, this is sick. Like I don't think he's gonna fucking kick any ass or anything. But
which is funny because he's like very much the opposite. He's not like a tough guy. in fact, the 16-year-old girl that hires him is driving him around.
Yeah, she drives him around. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, can he even?
He probably doesn't even drive.
I think so.
Can't drive.
So.
Yeah. Like I like the soundtrack for it. It was great. It had kind of like that one main song was the Zoe Deschanel song was kind of like a repeat song. You kind of heard it a bit through there, and that's kind of the one that kind of like I was like, oh okay. I was like, just kind of give me the good vibe of the movie. Kind of set it up like really nicely at the beginning. I was like, okay, I like where this is going.
Yeah,
like,
it's a strange mix between like this.
Like dark, ominous music meets like kind of like indie fun, which is kind of very Adam Brody in general, which is kind of like
I can see that.
It kind of like brought me back into that, which I was like, and I think it fit his character, like it fit the whole thing well in general. Like, now what would you give this? Like, what would you score this?
I would definitely rate it over 7 toward 8. I might even, you know what was really good, as refreshing to see an original movie in 2021. It reminded me of like one of those like older like throwback indie movies from like, you know, kind of like the mid 2000s to like the early 2010s, you know, like Safety Not Guaranteed and like kind of those kind of like it's funny you mentioned
we don't get any of those, like we don't really see as much of those movies anymore now. It's kind of like
that is the movie I was thinking of, actually.
That's kind of what it reminded me of, too. Yeah, kind of like the early Duplass brothers shit, where they did a lot of more, like, indie movies and stuff, right? Like, but, yeah, no, it was very refreshing to see, and, like, you would say what? You wouldn't give it a full 8.
No, I might.
I might, too. I was thinking about it. I was thinking
toward an 8. Like, 7.5.
I would go, like, over 7.5, but leaning more towards 8.
I would honestly, I think, would rate it 8.
I would give it an 8 because I can't recommend that enough.
I am surprised. Yeah, exactly. And I'm surprised how funny I found it. Like
I did too.
Hilarious. Yeah. All the stuff with him, like just using all this stuff from when he was a kid still.
Yeah, the tactics and stuff. Yeah, which we're gonna definitely get into.
And like he's in the beginning of the movie, he's at a bar, and then they mention that this one guy's there, and he's like, I don't care, and he goes out back and gets the shit beat out of him, and you find out that it's like this guy he went to school with 20 years ago to beat him up for
solving the crime against them. Yeah.
For getting him in trouble for stealing the funds for something.
The school funds.
Yeah.
That was his first case, right? That's how he started, right?
Right.
He solved the case of the missing whatever funds or money it was.
Yeah, so let's go into spoilers, I guess.
I would say I would 100% give this an 8. An 8 out of 10. And I can't recommend this enough. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I want to watch a good indie movie. Yeah. Check it out. And you know what? Tell other people about it too, because we need to see more of these fucking movies being made. Like, we're hitting a point now where like it's harder for stuff to get made. And it's just like with capitalism too, on top of it too, where big budget studios like Netflix and all these other places are just running rampant with like the way things are made. We need more movies like this.
Yeah,
we need like budget studio, like indie movies, because that's where you get
original scripts.
Original scripts, yeah. Like something different. Like,
no more Star Wars or Marvel.
I mean, I love the Marvel stuff, but like I'm starting to get marveled out here at this point. Like. But anyway, solid A.
Okay, so let's get into, some spoilers. So, we mentioned, so it's like a murder mystery meets a comedy. And here's the thing that I found, too. It's a really good murder mystery movie.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was going to go down like that at all.
And it's got twists and...
you know what I fucking loved?
A good story.
But you know what it's awesome about it? Is at the beginning of the movie... when he's watching the TV with his parents, and he's like, I could solve any fucking murder mystery by pointing it out. Which is kind of how the movie is. Like, it sets it up where you're like, okay, well, it's clearly that person. Like, it sets it up, like, because he's watching these movies as a kid, and he's like, the maid did it, this person did it. But, like, those are obvious, like, 1950s.
Yeah, which ends up, like, faulting him, and that's how he does his detective work. He makes an assumption right away.
Right away. He picks the most obvious
thing, because he's used to...
Well, obviously,
the things he has to solve is like, who beat up this person? Well, it's the bully in school. That's who.
I like the scene where when he's an adult and the kid's like, I need to know if this guy went to the Mets training camp.
Yeah, he's just like,
and he calls the kid's mom. He's like, did your son go to the Mets training camp? He's like, yeah, he did actually. He's like, thanks.
He says no.
He says no. No. I thought he called his mom, and his mom said he did go.
She said he didn't.
Oh, she said he didn't go. I swear I thought she said he did.
No, because it's obviously bullshit.
Oh, yeah, it was bullshit.
That was funny. Because
I went to Mets training camp, but let's see if he can prove that wrong.
Yeah, that's true. Todd did go to Mets
I went to the Mets training camp.
And if you call his mom...
probably refute that. I've never seen him fucking swing a bat in his life. The twist is really what, like, at the end there.
Oh, yeah, so it ends up all kind of, like... looping back around to his first case as a kid and everything, because it was the principal did it.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Mega spoiler. Was that the guy from the principal? Was that the guy from Scrubs? I didn't look into it, but I kind of saw it and I was like,
look it up.
But no, like it was just funny. Like I was like I didn't see that coming. I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Or like. And how it tied into the first case from before.
Yeah. So
and then it was just fucking dark. And I was like. I was sitting there watching this, and I was like, I didn't see it go in this direction.
So, did you expect the girl that was abducted when they were young to still be alive and still be?
No, because he kept referring to her in the past tense.
Right. So, it totally seemed like she had a very small part in the story, really, and it totally seemed like.
But that's the main.
This girl was killed.
But that's the main cog in the machine now,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
like,
that's why it's so interesting. Yeah. That's why the twist is so.
It was cool that it came back to that. Like, it's just subtle hints at, like, hey.
So he's at the principal's because he knows now that the principal killed the kid that they're looking for, and so he solved that, and the guy's dead. Whatever, he stabs himself.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
It's kind of like case solved,
yeah.
Right? But then he's like. Which is funny. He's like, I need to chug a beer right now, basically, because this is fun.
I am fucked up.
Because he really shouldn't. One of the funniest things is that he really shouldn't be a detective.
No,
because he's just like 30-year-old.
He's an alcoholic. Like he's
washed up guy. Yeah. So anyway, he goes to the fridge to chug a beer, and he sees the same kind of grape soda that he used to buy the girl 20 years ago, his secretary. So he sees the same grape soda, and he's like, oh shit, wait a sec. And then he sees a shed outside, and we all know what's gonna happen. And he goes out there and he finds her still in there, and it's like pretty gross. And
it's unbelievable. And you find out that the girl that actually hired him was the illegitimate love child of said principal, and that's why the principal murdered him because the kid was.
He thought that the kid had slept with Caroline.
Yes, but they weren't, as far as I can remember. But he also had that naked picture.
No, they didn't.
They didn't. That's right, because he was two-timing her with some other girl, according to the little fat kid.
Yeah. So Caroline was like tainted, which wasn't a virgin.
Yeah.
That was his weird like thing, because he's a pedophile and he wanted to sleep with a girl that was untouched.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it was.
13-year-old girl. So 20 years later, he's upset that someone had slept with his daughter because now she's like tainted or whatever. So he kills the kid.
I kind of knew something was up when they were in her house, and Adam Brody looks up the pictures of her parents, and he's like, "Oh, are these your parents?" And she's like, "Yeah." And obviously, the first thing that clicks in my head, I was like, "It was her." Like I thought it was her all along. Really? I thought she was the one who killed her boyfriend, and I thought it was gonna be some weird.
I thought it was weird that. So her parents both died in a ski accident together.
Right. And there's a picture of them skiing.
And it looks really fake. So the interesting thing to me is like, obviously that seems like such bullshit, but I wrote it off as just like comedy, you know?
Yeah, but that's what I saw.
Weirdly, why the twist worked, and I wonder if that works for other people. Because it seems obvious that those aren't her real parents, but I believed it because...
It's just goofy.
Funny, yeah, exactly.
But that's what the beauty of this movie is. You lose the goof in the seriousness.
It's so well done.
My favorite personal thing of the whole thing is at the beginning when he talks about, like, he's like, it's a great place to hide in closets, right? When he's sneaking into everyone's house, and he's like, but then you sneeze, and then the lady opens the closet, like, oh, that's so cute. And then fast forward to him, he's trying to get into the closets, and he can't fit.
Yeah, so let's talk about the closet scene. So when he's in his 30s,
when he's stalking that kid,
yeah, so he breaks into one of the suspects' home, who's like this 13-year-old kid, and he thinks the 13-year-old kid maybe, hired someone to, or whatever happened, he thinks he's involved with the murder of his classmate, so he's like, let's poke around his room. So he goes in there, and the kid's coming up, and he goes in the closet. But then the kid's just like
playing Pong.
Yeah,
he's playing fucking Pong
on the computer for a few hours, which is totally what would happen. You just gotta stand.
The score was like 6-5. I was like, this kid sucks. I was like, it's Pong. I was like, I would.
But then, so then the kid's called down for dinner, and he's trying to sneak out, but the little sister runs upstairs,
and he ends up in her room,
and he has to run back and hides in her closet
because he tries to hide in the linen closet, but he won't fit because it's too big. So then he goes into her room.
So then he's waiting for the girl to fall asleep so that he can sneak out, and then
he sneezes.
He's caught. And the next day in the paper, he's registered as a sex offender.
What did they say to her? The girl's like, I heard you were masturbating in that little girl's closet. He's like, I wasn't masturbating. It's like, oh, it doesn't help you.
Which is funny, yeah, because when he's a kid, it's cute. When he's older,
an adult, it's fucked. Well, I think that's the point of the whole movie is like, these are things all fine and dandy when you're a kid, but like you got to grow up at some point.
It's the brilliance in the premise. It's like, what would a kid detective look like when they're 30?
Yeah.
What would the Hardy Boys look like in their 30s? Would they still be solving crimes and stuff? Probably not. No.
And like as a PI nonetheless, right? Like,
yeah, and that's the thing. They're in this small town where
how many cases are you gonna get? Like,
yeah, nothing like his one of the cases is to figure out if the kid's dad's gay.
It's like, what?
Yes, he was.
I was like, that's what I found so funny about it too, is that I remember looking at it and like obviously just being right off the bat like, in this small town, I was like, how many goddamn cases is he gonna get? Like, but that's the thing. I just loved how I didn't know where it was going or like what was gonna happen next. Like, it was great. It kind of like tricked you kind of in a way also too. Like, it was like things aren't what they seem.
Yeah, there were some weird things aren't what they seem things. There were kind of like red herrings throughout, like the girl with the tiger mask and stuff.
Yeah, like,
which is cool, I guess. I didn't really like that stuff.
I didn't see the
really have I get it. They don't want to just follow the main suspect, but
no, I guess it kind of adds.
But it was funny.
Variety.
He goes over to they think that the boyfriend was cheating on Caroline with another girl, so he goes over there, and this girl's probably 16, and her mom's at the door, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just a detective," and she's like, "Ah, spare me the story," like, which is really fucked up because the mom essentially thinks that this 30-year-old guy
is dating his daughter,
sleeping with their daughter. Anything you didn't like about it?
I mean, it's great. Like, the runtime was good. Like, I can't really think of anything bad to say about it, really.
Yeah,
like,
my things are really minor. Like I mentioned, those red herring things, but they actually were pretty good. I didn't really like the whole. I
didn't like the teenager aspect, like the teenagers, like the high school stuff. Yeah. I was kind of like, but it kind of evolves through the movie where he's like a kid, and then it goes into like teenager shit, and then straight to like cocaine and murder and booze. And,
so that's
and life of like.
What I was gonna say is the one thing I didn't like about it was the high school drug thing where he's like,
yeah, that was a little
trying to figure out if this murder is because, which is another like red herring, which is good, but I was afraid the movie was gonna devolve into like this like 21 Jump Street style. Who's selling the drugs in the high school type thing.
Yeah, that's what I thought that was going to be honest.
They call them ego boosters.
Yeah.
Which is this like in 21 Jump Street they call the drug Wi-Fi. There's always this like ridiculously named like drug that's just popular at this one school. And
yeah, why don't you just do Adderall like the rest of the fucking kids?
Exactly.
That's what the kids are doing now, right? Adderall?
I have no idea what the kids are doing.
But yeah, that was one aspect I didn't like, and how the kids are in there overnight, and like they're just like, oh, they just hang out here overnight, and I'm like, in what world like would they feel like? I mean, I don't know. Like, we're from a small town. I don't like we're not that small.
I had friends that did that at our hometown.
Like what, broke into the school at night?
So I grew up when I was in high school. I was a lifeguard, and there was a pool at one of the high schools had a pool. And, after school, there would be, like, swim meets and stuff that we would lifeguard. And, lifeguards, we're all, like, in our teens. And so my boss is, like, 17.
Yeah.
So he has the key to the pool, essentially. So...
You guys want to go for a dip?
So I never went, but apparently they used to go, because he had the key, they used to go, like, on the weekend, at night and go in there and go swimming and, like, have beers and stuff. Having a bunch of girls.
That sounds like a good time. Yeah. That sounds like a good time.
So,
Here's
thinking
girls.
about it, like, now, I'm like, oh, man, I wish I went with them, like, back in the day. But, there's a bunch of stories about that. So, I had the same thought you did, where I'm like, this is a little ridiculous. But then, because they're all, like, skateboarding in the school and everything. But then I'm thinking, like, yeah, this could happen.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not now. It depends what town
not
you're
in the
in.
States.
Like you were saying, small town thing is like I'm assuming there's like cameras and high security.
Well, now you got like fucking 5 metal detectors to get into a school now in the States anyway. So.
When we went to high school 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about that one for a
There
second.
wasn't like cameras and stuff as far as I can remember. Like.
Oh, there were cameras. There were cameras fucking everywhere, man.
How did the kids get in the school then to go swimming?
I don't fucking know, but there were cameras.
I don't think there were. What about at GDHS?
That school's so shit. I have cameras.
I'm just gonna say.
I don't know, maybe. But like, yeah, there were cameras. There are 100% cameras. They're just in weird spots. You can't see them, right?
Maybe not in the.
I remember never smoking weed outside. I looked over. I was like, "Oh, true." It's like camera right there.
Yeah, so I assume there'd be cameras in their school.
You're just like, what have I done that they've seen? What did they know I've done?
Yeah, so like, there's a point where he's talking to the principal, and he's like, they're talking about he's got this lead because.
No, what happens?
Checking the lockers.
No, when he goes through the lockers, because remember the girl's like, "Oh, I have his stuff I have his jacket in my locker," and then when they look through it, it's missing. It's missing shit, and it's missing the picture. right? Which we find out that he took later, and he left the flower.
The principal took it.
Yeah, and the principal took it, but he left the flower. Like, kind of a weird, like...
Because he thought it was Caroline.
Yeah, and he's kind of like leaving calling cards with those,
that's weird.
with the flowers, and I was like, why would you do that? I was like, you're just gonna get caught. Like,
yeah, that's stupid.
Usual with, like, someone who's, like, serial, like, someone of that magnitude, they don't leave things, they take things with them.
This is the way I looked at it. That's another, like, just a
minor thing.
It's like a red herring thing in this script, so that we have something to connect the murder to. Like, I don't think it would really happen like that. Obviously, he wouldn't leave stuff behind, but, well, it happens in the movies so that we can see that each of these girls has this origami flower, and then he finds one in the desk of his friend from 20 years ago, and he can connect the whole thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
He followed the clues.
Yeah.
The clues.
Yeah, so it was really well written that way, where it was like murder mystery with clues and cause and effect, and they all kind of like,
yeah, it all kind of mingled, intertwined
in a great roller coaster type.
Yeah, it was great. Did we ever find out if that was the guy from Scrubs or not? Because that's what I thought it was.
I couldn't find him on it. So this is the thing about all these actors in this movie, because it was filmed in North Bay, Ontario. So it uses primarily all Canadian actors. So not very many big names. Yeah, anything else we should talk about? Did you want to talk about the OC?
California. Why do they bring the OC back? That's what I
know.
Yeah, they're remaking everything fucking now. They might as well. Well, they remake everything.
No, I know. They're not remaking the OC, though, I don't think, right?
Not yet. Yeah, I guarantee you in 10 years they're going to redo this. They would.
I mean, it's such a simple, like, anything could be the OC. It's just teen drama.
Teen drama, yeah. But they're in California. That's what makes it the OC.
It's cool that they go to a beach party. That's sick. I want to go to a beach party.
Do you remember that episode of, like, there's an episode of the OC where Adam Brody... You remember there's that arc where he starts smoking weed?
Yeah.
And then he ends up burning down the house or the office, I think, from smoking a joint because he puts it out. And like the moral is like, if you smoke weed, you're gonna burn shit down. I just remember watching that and I was like,
yeah.
Like, oh, what a great story arc that was. Also, there was a lot of good story arcs in that. What was the one where Olivia Wilde was in? That was one of the first things Olivia Wilde was in, actually. She played like the lesbian bartender at the what was that fucking place that they would always go to? It was like some surf bar.
Dude, I have no idea, man.
Really?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Oh, I watched it.
You're like an OC aficionado.
I wouldn't say an aficionado. I watched it when it was on, and then maybe again when it went back up on the streaming service. But like,
did you watch it recently?
Like, define recently.
Well, streaming services have only been around.
Maybe like 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
I wouldn't consider that recent.
I'm going to consider that recently. Okay. When did the OC come out? Like 2000.
California.
So, the OC came out in 2003.
Great year for the OC. That
show was huge.
That show was massive.
Yeah.
They only got but I remember when you got the first season was alright, second season was very watchable, and then it was just drudgery.
Obviously. That's just gonna happen. Like, you can't sustain a teen drama. Like, you just can't. Like,
no, and I think a lot of the actors were
way too soap opera-y.
Yeah, and I think what happens is a lot of the actors become like bigger because they start out as nothing, and then they want to do movies, and then they want more money, and then
they start doing drugs.
Yeah. I mean, the guy who played the lead, I can never remember what his name is. I can't remember.
Well, his name's Ryan in the show.
Yeah, Ryan. He's in all kinds of shit. Like, he's always in he's always in a show.
And of course, Peter Gallagher, who played
Sandy Cohen.
Sandy Cohen?
Yeah.
Yep. He's in a bunch of shit. What did I see him in recently? It was really good.
My favorite role he's in is in American Beauty as like the real estate agent guy.
Oh yeah. Ryan was played by Ben McKenzie.
Ben McKenzie, that's what it was.
Who's in Gotham? That's what he's.
Yeah, he's in Gotham. He was in like some other bunch
Lex
of.
Luthor in Gotham?
No, he's Lex Luthor. Gotham is a Batman-based show. Lex Luthor is a Superman.
Yikes!
It's all good. DC sucks anyway.
Wow.
Except for Batman.
I only said that because he looks like Lex Luthor in this picture, so it's like
his face does look quite villainous. Like he could play a good bad guy. No, he plays Commissioner Gordon.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
Commissioner
That's
Gordon.
a great role.
A young Commissioner Gordon. I mean, Gotham for a show, like, it was alright. Like, I watched the first season of it and I was like, okay, this is watchable. But then, yeah, it's, then it doesn't get too good. then it gets a little shit. You watching anything now? No shows? Nothing you're watching?
I watched the first episode of Rome.
What was that?
It's good.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to be like, I didn't like it.
No. I just said it like that because it's, you know,
it's Mark Clement.
It came out a long time ago, and it's kind of a weird thing to just start watching.
Oh, when did that come out again? Like, that is, like, we're talking like 5-6 years back? I don't quite remember.
At least, yeah.
I was gonna say, is that the show with the guy who ended up getting cancer? No, Spartacus.
Yeah, it came out in 2005.
Holy shit!
It's about Italians.
Rome.
Ancient.
How? Like, did this run for like a while too?
It's only 22 episodes, so yeah, 2 seasons. But apparently, it's really good.
Okay, it's obviously like.
Apparently, it attempts to be the most historically accurate show about ancient Rome.
Okay.
So that's what brought me in. I was curious about that. So yeah, it tries to make it more real. Well, before 2005, there's not many realistic, you know, like what were the citizens of Rome really like? They didn't really do that. It was more like gladiator type shit where it's like,
are you not entertained?
Yeah. Well, which is great too. But this is more like what would the people really be like on the citizens and that, and it paints it's a dark depiction of. Yeah,
you only live to be like 30 years
what
old.
Rome probably was. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, live past that age.
Because Brutus keeps stabbing him.
A2 Brutus. Yeah, why did I start watching? That was pretty good. Ooh. I've been rewatching the Spawn. The Todd McFarlane series. Spawn. What?
You know I don't watch superhero stuff.
Yeah, but Spawn's not really even a superhero thing.
Close enough. He's fringe. He's fringe superhero. He's superhero. He's from comic books.
He's an anti-hero.
He's from comic books. I mean,
yeah, he's in comic books.
Does he have like an alter ego named Spawn?
No, he is Spawn.
That's what I mean. But he's a person with a name, and his alter ego is Spawn.
He's a guy. He's a guy who gets. He's an ex-military guy who gets murdered, and then he becomes Satan's pawn. And
yeah,
like
so
this,
that doesn't sound like a fucking superhero thing.
I mean, not in a traditional sense, but yes, it does obviously have a lot of those elements.
The radioactive goo that he falls in is just Satan's.
Satan's jizz. There is no goo, but the movie's really good. Have you not seen the Spawn movie?
No.
Oh, it's from like the mid-90s.
Man, I haven't seen the Avengers.
I mean,
yeah, but I mean,
like,
just don't
those movies are like
I just don't like superhero movies.
Some of them are overrated. I will say this, like some of them are really good. Some of them are good watches, but a lot of them are overrated.
To be honest, I wish I did because there's so many of them, but it's hard for me to just buy it. I just don't. It's just not believable to me.
You don't care, and that's fine. That's not for you, and that's that's what it is. Like, I think the problem is there's too many of those fucking movies now.
Exactly.
Like,
well, that's probably where some of my distaste comes from. Is that it took over. The movie world. Like,
remember when like X-Men came out, like in like 1999 or like 2000. Mm-hmm. And like I was like, I saw that in theaters, and I was like, "This is fucking great." I was like, "This is awesome." I was like, "This is all I ever wanted." And then I think 2002 brought a Spider-Man too, which was like,
but
you're looking at
those.
We're getting these like 3-4 year gaps in between these superhero movies, and then once they decided they were going to do the Avengers fucking thing, that's when it started like Iron Man like 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, fucking a million Thor movies. Like, who cares? No one's watching these.
Yeah, so all of my friends that know that I don't like superheroes very much, they always say, all right, well, what about like Thor Ragnarok? Check that out, because that seems
that is a great movie. Because
I'm a big like fantasy.
That's
guy.
Directed by Taika Waititi. That's a great movie.
I know, and I love him.
Great movie.
And people always suggest that would be the one that I like. So I watched it.
You didn't like it.
Didn't like it.
I mean, it has some good comedy elements.
No, that's the other thing.
But the other thing,
superhero comedy, it's so stupid. It's like, look, I'm a superhero, but look at this. I did a goofy thing. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it cares. It has to. Yeah, I see what you're like. So you kind of like it more like the Nolan movies, where it's like a dark, like.
I like.
Like it has to be more like.
And I watched
gritty.
The Joker, and I liked The Joker.
The Joker was great, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I have a bunch of issues.
I know unpopular opinions are like a big thing with that movie.
We've talked about that a lot. With it's like King of Comedy, basically rehashed.
Well, here's the fucking problem. Now they released like a bunch of like they re-released like the Zack Snyder like cuts for the DC movies, like of the I think it was like Justice League that he never finished.
Oh yeah.
Now there's a lot of like Jared Leto scenes that got added into that now, so like just like minor speculation that they're bringing Jared Leto into the Batman, like the new Batman universe. I'm not too stoked on this. Like,
right. To be honest, I gotta say I'm not surprised.
Well, he bitched and moaned so much about how they didn't use his character properly. His character wasn't even good. Like, I don't understand. Like, why he's sitting here and he's like, I didn't use my good Joker. Your Joker's shit. Like,
did they re-release Suicide Squad or no?
No, that was shot shitty, made shitty, and then put out shitty. Like, it's just staying shitty. Like, I haven't watched the Zack Snyder cuts of it. I've just heard, like, rumblings of, like, that Jared Leto, he quotes a lot of stuff that Joaquin quotes in the Joker, like how they're, like, a crew, like, they're a family, they're a group of, like, kind of bringing up, like, that, incel vibe kind of thing, which, is kind of, like, essentially what he does, right? But yeah, I'm just worried that we end up, because I have so much promise for this movie. Like, the new Batman movie, I think it's going to be...
I do too.
I think it's going to be phenomenal.
So that's the
just
thing,
based upon the cast alone.
Even though I say, like, I don't like superhero movies, I can watch Batman movies because it's kind of a little bit more realistic. And also,
his superpower is money.
Yeah.
Like, he's fucking rich.
Well, so he's like Tony Stark, except he doesn't make those stupid fucking jokes that I don't like all the time.
Oh, God. Or that Doolittle movie.
Oh, Doolittle movie's sick. No, not Doolittle. No, I'm just kidding. I told Dylan, my buddy, who's also a movie buff, that was the best movie of the year.
What did he say?
Well, he didn't see anything about it, so he didn't know that it was god awful, but I was really trying to get him to watch it. But he found out. Unfortunately.
You just trick him into watching this shit movie? Like, well, what'd you think?
Yeah, I had this big spiel about how they turned Doolittle into, like, a clever story about environmentalism. The animals are dying, right? Like, they're being, like, deforested.
Oh, my God.
And he's just there to help. They call me Doolittle.
Well, why does he have that smoking jacket on in the fucking poster?
You gotta
look good, right?
Yeah, you gotta play the part.
Oh my God. I was just really hoping it was a fourth Iron Man, and halfway through the movie, shit was just gonna start
this is his power. He talks to animals.
Yeah, talks to animals. Yeah, he's really just rehashing a new... Like, it's funny because he made such a stink about how he's like, I'm not doing Iron Man anymore. I'm not doing it. And then that's what you do. And I'm like, he'll never, like, these guys will never work in anything else. Like Chris Hemsworth, he's kind of in shit.
Yeah.
Who's the other one? The guy played Captain America, Chris Evans, the guy who's also Human Torch.
Right.
And he's a repeat Marveler. Like, he's been in multiple Marvel things. That guy, like, he's great in Snowpiercer, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, they're fairly typecast.
But he's just going to be Captain America.
Yeah.
And the same thing with, look how long it took fucking Keaton to get out of being Batman.
Well, you mentioned, I mean,
that took, like, fucking, like, 20 years.
You mentioned...
Like, now we're just kind of not looking at him as Batman now.
That's true. Yeah, which is great. And, good for him. He's a good actor.
A great actor.
But, yeah, you mentioned Robert Downey Jr. The thing about him is that at least he had a whole career before. He did, yeah, he did. He was in a lot of good stuff.
What was it? You know what's really underrated? It was really good. He was in the sequel to The Fugitive.
My God.
I think it's just called U.S. Marshal.
I did not know they made a sequel.
Yeah, it's him and...
I love The Fugitive.
It's him and Tommy Lee Jones. And I think it's Wesley Snipes, if I can remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
We went back when, like, in the mid-90s when Wesley Snipes was, like, fucking massive. Like...
Yeah, I'd be curious...
It's not a bad flick.
Check it out.
I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember holding it. I think I watched some classic TBS movie.
The Fugitive is just, like, unmatched. That movie is
so good. Great. I don't care.
Tommy Lee Jones plays by his own rules.
He plays by and
he's like Adam Brody in The Kid Detective.
Tommy Lee Jones is allowed to play by his own rules, alright?
He sure is.
I was just thinking, I haven't really seen any good docs lately. There's a Blockbuster doc that's up on Netflix. I'm debating on checking that out. It has Kevin Kevin Smith? No, Kevin James. Kevin Smith is like the main guy in the picture.
Oh, really?
So I was like, okay. I was like, I mean, he looks really skinny. But he's, for some reason, still wears fat guy clothes. I don't understand. It's really weird.
Oh, he's really skinny?
Yeah, his face just looks really thin.
Well, he always wears like a jersey.
Yeah, but he had to get gastric bypass surgery, right? Because he's bigger. Because I guess he had a heart attack, right? Yeah. He's too big, right? Mm-hmm. And it looks like he's lost like maybe like 70 pounds or something like that. Like he's fucking thin. True. But he's still wearing the same clothes from when he was a fat guy.
Oh, he'll always. Yeah.
So I'm just like, yeah, like he just looks the same.
That's who he is, man. That's his brand.
That's his brand. Backwards hat and fat guy. Well, not anymore, but... No, I like Kevin Smith.
Yeah, so that was Kid Detective. Next week, we're going to talk about...
TBD.